Could COVID passports help bring back international travel? Global airline lobby Iata is working on a mobile app letting travelers show that they're virus-free. The travel pass could include COVID test results, proof of vaccination, and national entry rules. Joining me now from Sydney is Bloomberg News reporter Angus Whitley. Angus, tell us more about this app. How does it work?
It was designed to be a digital passport that enables you to travel around in the COVID era. And say, for example, you were traveling overseas, say from London to Paris, perhaps. It would enable you to identify the nearest testing locations where you could get a COVID test and ultimately a COVID jab or vaccination. And it would tell you what the requirements are for that particular journey, because countries ultimately will have different demands, different requirements, different conditions. And it would enable you to store that particular certificate. So you'd present it to the airline officials at the gate or the terminal. And you could present the same certificates to the border control officers at the exit of the country, at the terminal. And the idea is to get you flying safely and securely in the COVID era.
So does that mean that to keep everyone safe, the vaccinations could be mandatory for overseas travel in the future?
It's certainly looking like that. I mean, Alan Joyce, who's the chief executive of Qantas, said they're considering changing the terms and conditions of their tickets to stipulate that if you get an overseas flight coming into Australia or leaving Australia, you must have a COVID-19 vaccination.
For international travellers, that we will ask people to have a vaccination before they can get on the aircraft. What do you need that domestically? We'll have to see what happens with COVID-19 in the market.
But it's not clear exactly how that's going to work, because vaccination is going to be rolled out over a long period. Technology will no doubt progress, so that there'll be a shortening of the window where you'll have to quarantine. Others will have vaccination. So there's going to be a mixture of people in the skies. Obviously that there's been a reaction from people who wonder, well, does an airline have the right to impose, medical treatment, medical vaccination on its passengers? So it's fraught with complexity.
And I think many of us have been itching to travel abroad, but that risk of catching COVID is still there. How secure would you yourself feel traveling with a COVID passport, knowing what you know so far?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it would depend, wouldn't it, on where you were flying to. And that's partly why we've seen different countries start to open their borders selectively. We've had travel corridors in their infancy, of course, not all of them working very well, but that they've been opened in some way between Australia and New Zealand, China and South Korea, Hong Kong and Singapore. That's been an abortive start, hasn't it? It's had a false start and it's had to be delayed. So you'd have to see how this is rolled out and how effective it is. Is it safe? Is it secure? Can it be hacked? Is your data safe? Can people get hold of your certificate and impose it on someone else? Is it transferable? So all these questions not yet answered. And I think people will still want to see some proof that it's working. And I think it's fair to point out, with that in mind, IATA is trialing this app with IAG, which of course is the big European airline group that owns British Airways. It's going to be trialing that this year, and then it'll be rolled out on some phones as soon as the first quarter of next year, other phones the second quarter of next year. So we should have a fair idea of how well it's functioning from the trials and from that gradual rollout in 2021.
Bloomberg News aviation reporter Angus Whitley in Sydney.